Hi guys, I'm Sky. I'm the writer of learninggiant.com. This video will be basically a book review about the book I've just read, which is The Brand Gap, written by Martin Neumann. So this book is basically about a unified theory of building brands. And basically this book shows the combination of two approaches, which is the strategic and the creative approach. And this book says that if you are able to unite both the strategic and creative approach, this combination could be quite powerful to build a charismatic brand. So a charismatic brand means that it is a brand that customers want to be associated with in their daily life. So who wrote this book, The Brand Gap? Why should you read this book? Well, this book was written by Martin Neumann. So Martin Neumann actually started as a graphic designer and a copywriter in the 1970s. So in 1980s, he then subsequently moved to Silicon Valley to work with companies, for example, Apple, HP, Netscape, Google, and Adobe to help them build their brands. So then he subsequently Neutron, a design think tank that focuses on brand building, and he has subsequently done consultation work with some of the world's most exciting companies while writing and speaking about the topics of business strategy, design, and also innovation. So you may ask, who should read this book? Well, definitely students of marketing, design, branding, and business should read this book because it's geared towards this topic of branding. In addition to that, anyone whose job is to organize or to be part of a branding effort, they can also read this book because it's pretty much gives like a crash course on branding. And personally, because I myself am not from a marketing background, I found this book to be a very good crash course of branding and understanding what goes behind branding, as this book was pretty much easy to read. It wasn't too long. So let us move on to this summary of this book and also the key points that I'd like to highlight to you. So this book starts with, why is branding so important? And the reason why branding is so important for us to understand is that a brand is essentially another person's gut feelings about a product, a service of a company. So in other words, what it means is that a brand is not what you say about the brand, but how the consumer perceives about the brand. And this book also tackles the topic of why is branding so hot these days. So our ways of judging products by comparing their features and benefits, which is what we used to do in the past, has changed. So nowadays, whenever we buy products or services, we rely on that judgment based on how we feel about the brand and our trust towards that product. So because of this, it becomes so important to be able to build a charismatic brand. Because when you build a charismatic brand, the consumer thinks that there is no other substitute that's out there, and therefore they may be more inclined to purchase your goods or services. This book essentially covers 5 disciplines of brand building. So I'll be sharing with you a little bit of information that I have gathered from the book. The first discipline being differentiate. Second, collaborate. Third, innovate. Fourth, validate. Fifth, cultivate. So we move on to the first discipline, which is differentiate. And under this topic, the author wrote that you have to ask 3 most powerful questions to yourself when it comes to a brand. Who are you? What do you do? And why does it matter? By asking yourself these 3 questions, you're able to narrow down your focus into what are the benefits that you bring to the industry and the marketplace, and then try to carve out your differentiating point from your competitors. Another point which the author wrote, which I found quite interesting, was to differentiate yourself by focusing on creating experiences and personal identity, which is even becoming more important than just highlighting the features or benefits. So nowadays, when you look at ads, it is no longer about how the product is priced or even the numerous features, but the ad is designed to create and elicit emotion from the viewer, is to give them experience that they keep on associating the brand with something positive. On the second discipline, which is collaborate, It's important to note it takes a village to build a brand. So in the company itself, the employees of the company and from top-down management to the employees, it needs to be consistently communication about what the company brand is about and how does everybody contribute in their own way to ensure that we are pushing out a positive brand to the consumer. So subsequently, the book also talks about 3 basic models to manage brand collaborations, which are outsource to a one-stop shop, outsourcing to a brand agency, stewarding the brand internally to an integrated marketing team. And this book also dissects the pros and cons of these 3 models. So the third discipline is Innovate. And innovation requires creativity. Unfortunately, this word is a little bit of a scary word when it comes to business because innovating something new means that you have never tested it out before, and therefore, people balance out the risk of actually trying something new, whether it will fall flat or it's a success. However, when you ask business people what gives them a competitive edge over their competitors, they will always say innovation, because innovation means that people are thinking outside of the box and therefore they come up with better solutions to existing problems. Now, to achieve innovation, sometimes it requires you to be a little bit insular and also to sort of block out the noise that may be coming from your industry peers as to whether or not you can attempt something new. So in the world of branding, the author mentioned that creativity does not require reinventing the wheel, but simply thinking in fresh ways how to solve a problem. So we move on to the fourth discipline, which is validate. When we carry out validation, it essentially means that we are gathering feedback from the consumers, which will then can be able to inspire and validate our innovation. This book also talks about how to test brand concepts quickly and cheaply, and also lists down the pros and cons behind each validation step. So the fifth discipline is Cultivate. And this book also talks about that since business is a process, not an entity, so is your brand. Your brand is always live and changing. And I found something that was pretty interesting, which was the author actually mentioned that if brands lack depth and humanity, it creates suspicion with the customer. Another important point of this book I found was that no decision, big or small, should be made without asking the million-dollar question. Will it help or hurt the brand? This question itself has to be cascaded down from top to bottom management, where everybody is hyper aware that whatever they do when it comes to interaction with their customers and also internally within the firm, and therefore your actions should map back to their brand identity. So basically, I found this book pretty interesting and I really liked it because I myself am not from a marketing background. I studied accounting and finance, so branding was a little bit of an interesting topic to actually approach and read. As well as I liked the book that was about, say, 200 pages, not too long, and at the same time it was enough of information just for me to absorb. So another thing about this book was the take-home lessons, whereby there was a quick summary of each discipline, and I found it to be useful so that whenever you want to refresh your memory about reading a book, you just flick to the back portion of the book and you instantly get like key takeaway points that you should incorporate in when it comes to branding. In addition to that, there was a 220 word brand glossary page, so that was a pretty good tool as well, I find, for newbies when it comes to branding. Some people may be reading this book for the first time and maybe they might be a little bit scared that the jargon will just turn them off or they have no idea what it means. So if you'd like to get a copy of this book, the link to this book is in the description box below. Now, if you have any recommendations on books about branding or marketing, do leave me a comment in the comments section below. I would really love to hear your recommendations. Now, if you like watching this video, do click like, subscribe to my YouTube channel.